A domestic abuse refuge is a very tragic necessity. Everyone rathers that they wouldn't have to exist, and everybody, including the government, wants to move to a point where when something happens, it's actually the abuser that would be taken out of the home rather than, as often is the case, a woman and her children. But unfortunately, they are necessary, and to not have them available is absolutely lethal. Research by Dunleary-Rathdown County Council, another part of the country that does not have a refuge and that needs one, found recently that refuges in Ireland can be twice as likely to need to turn a woman and child away as to be able to accommodate her because they are so full. You've whole swathes of the country all along the west coast, all across the Midlands, where there might be no refuge space available. And when a woman is trying to flee, that can often be the time when she's most at risk, when she's in most danger. So you can't put too fine a point in it. You know, to not have those spaces available is lethal. It's really, really dangerous.
Oh, I was frightened to think that if somebody was to try and get away from the house to go to a refuge,
made that decision,
and to be turned away, like we're hearing from those calls that they were hung up on as well. I mean, it is frightening. The Minister for Justice, Helen McEntee, she has made a point in saying that she wants to tackle this domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. Do you see that? Like, what do you feel? Is it just about funding? Really?
No, it's not. It's much more. And I sometimes describe the funding thing as, you know, if it was just funding, you could sort of say, we'll put this slosh of money into services that have been underfunded for 10, 15 years, and we'll make you do everything all of a sudden. It actually is building up an infrastructure, a system that recognises that this is a necessary evil in our society. I think a few years ago, this really wasn't talked about at all.
No.
There is credit due to this government. This government's programme for government has written into it that there was an epidemic of sexual, domestic and gender-based violence that has to be tackled. Helen McEntee has been working on this, so have TUSLA and other agencies as well. Of course, all operating in their own silo, which is why she needs to bring out this coherent strategy that she's promising in a few weeks' time. But in the meantime, there has been good work going on, like that mapping of the refuge situation. Like mapping, what else do you do? How do you support the abused person to stay in their home and not have to go out without the kids' toys, all the other, you know, your clothes, everything you need? How do you support them? So you need to build a system that says abuse can happen easily in relationships. If it's allowed to get on. So you need to build up ways to prevent it happening in the first place. That's better education, more awareness like this programme, the rest of it. But it is also about ensuring that you have targeted services for those who are at risk of abuse, trying to ensure that people get to stay in their own homes with their own children. And it's part of the housing crisis as well. So you bring in housing as well. So there's a whole heap of things. For instance, housing in our area, you would think in relation to rape and sexual abuse, what's the housing need there? But for instance, we have seen people who have to pass their abuser's flat to get to their own flat. And you're like, why not change the flat? You know, if that's within someone's gift.